Imagine this: you're sitting in a cozy library, the air thick with the scent of old books and the soft hum of distant chatter. It's a quiet, ordinary day, but little do you know, a revolution is about to unfold. On a warm afternoon in London, on July 1st, 1858, a small group of scientists gathered at the Linnean Society. They were there to read a set of papers that would change the way humanity understood life on Earth. But here's the twist: nobody in the room seemed to realize it at the time. The papers, titled "On the Tendency of Species to Form Varieties," and "On the Perpetuation of Varieties and Species by Natural Means of Selection," were presented by two of the most respected scientists of the day, Sir Charles Lyell and J.D. Hooker. The authors of these groundbreaking ideas were Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace, two naturalists who had independently come up with the same theory of evolution by natural selection. Now, you might be wondering, why is this so shocking? After all, we know about evolution today, right? But in 1858, the idea that species could change over time and that humans shared a common ancestor with apes was nothing short of heretical. The world was still largely shaped by religious beliefs that God had created all living things in their current forms. The linchpin of Darwin and Wallace's theory was the concept of natural selection, a process where the fittest individuals in a species survive and pass on their traits to the next generation. This idea was so revolutionary that it took the scientific community years to fully accept it, and it continues to be a cornerstone of modern biology. Let's take a step back and explore how these two brilliant minds came to their groundbreaking conclusions. Charles Darwin, a young and curious man, set sail on the HMS Beagle in 1831. He was just 22 years old and about to embark on a 5-year voyage that would change his life and the course of science. Darwin's journey took him around the world, from the coasts of South America to the Galapagos Islands, and he collected countless specimens and observations along the way. One of the most important influences on Darwin's thinking was a book he took with him, the first volume of Charles Lyell's Principles of Geology. Lyell's book introduced the idea of uniformitarianism, the principle that the same natural processes that shape the Earth today have been at work throughout history. This idea was a departure from the prevailing belief in catastrophism, which held that major changes in the Earth's landscape were the result of sudden, catastrophic events. As Darwin explored the diverse ecosystems he encountered, he began to notice patterns. He saw how different species of finches on the Galapagos Islands had evolved to have different beaks, each adapted to their specific food sources. He observed how the same species of plant or animal could vary in different environments. These observations sparked a question in Darwin's mind. Could species change over time, and if so, how? Meanwhile, in a far corner of the world, Alfred Russel Wallace was on his own journey. Born into a poor family in Wales, Wallace had a brief formal education, but was largely self-taught. He read voraciously, devouring books on natural history, science, and travel. One of the books that profoundly influenced him was Robert Chambers' Vestiges of the Natural History of Creation, which, although controversial, popularized the idea of organic evolution. Wallace was also inspired by the travels of Alexander von Humboldt, a famous explorer who documented his adventures in South America. In 1848, Wallace set out on an expedition to the Amazon with his friend Henry Walter Bates. They spent 4 years collecting specimens and making observations, but tragedy struck when Wallace's ship caught fire and sank, taking his specimens with it. Undeterred, Wallace continued his work and soon set out for the Malay archipelago. It was during this 8-year journey that Wallace formulated his theory of natural selection. In 1858, while in the Moluccas, he wrote an essay outlining his ideas and sent it to Darwin, whom he had never met but admired greatly. When Darwin received Wallace's essay, he was stunned. He had been working on his own theory for over 20 years, and here was someone who had arrived at the same conclusions independently. Darwin was torn. He had been cautious about publishing his ideas, fearing the backlash from the scientific and religious communities. But now, with Wallace's essay, he felt the pressure to share his work. With the help of Lyell and Hooker, they arranged for both Darwin's and Wallace's ideas to be presented to the Linnean Society on July 1, 1858. Despite the significance of the papers, the meeting was surprisingly anticlimactic. The 30 fellows in attendance paid little attention, and there was no discussion. It was as if the room was holding its breath, waiting for the world to catch up with the revolutionary ideas that had just been shared. But the seeds of change had been planted, and over the next few years, Darwin's and Wallace's ideas began to gain traction. Darwin went on to publish his seminal work, On the Origin of Species, in 1859. The book was a sensation, sparking intense debates and gradually shifting the scientific consensus. Wallace, while less well-known, continued his work and is now recognized as a co-founder of the theory of evolution by natural selection. Both men were driven by a deep curiosity and a commitment to understanding the natural world, even when it meant challenging long-held beliefs. The story of Darwin and Wallace is a testament to the power of observation, critical thinking, and the courage to challenge the status quo. It's a reminder that sometimes the most groundbreaking ideas can come from the unlikeliest places and the most unexpected moments. So, the next time you're sitting in a quiet library or exploring a new place, remember that the world is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered, and the next great discovery could be just around the corner.